Welcome to Homeschool Your Way. I'm your host, Janna Cook, and Bookshark's community manager. In today's episode, I have brought you the internet's dad. You didn't know that you had a dad on the internet? Well, you do. Everybody does. My guest today is Rob Kenney. He is the creator of Dad, How Do I? We're going to be talking about not only his YouTube channel, which has over 4 million subscribers, but how he came to this idea and how, even though it has exploded, he has remained a regular guy. So, without further ado, Rob, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Janna.
So excited. I don't even think I knew I had an internet dad up until recently. And then here you are.
Be honest with you, I've shied away from the name Internet's Dad only because it's not something I would call myself. But the reality is, if you Google Internet's Dad, it's me. And so I've had to get my head around that. But like I said, I think it might be a little bit presumptuous if I called myself the Internet Dad.
But you didn't. It's your followers. It's your followers who called you that. And so therefore it's a title I think that's appropriate and will stick for sure. Now, you are not a homeschool parent and you have not been really involved in the homeschool world, but you are an educator, and maybe not a classically trained educator, but one who is educating on the internet for real life situations. So tell us, how did that evolve? How did you become an educator of the internet?
Yeah, I thought of the idea of Dad, How Do I a few years before I actually posted anything. And it would have been a resource that I could have used when I was younger, because my dad left when I was 14. And so I was trying to produce content that would have been, that I felt like was valuable, a lot of nuggets to be able to, to get you in and out and learn something. And like I was kind of teaching myself, really. And so I thought of the idea a few years before, and then my daughter was on me, Dad, you need to do this, you need to do it. And then with the pandemic, it kind of forced my hand. And so because I was at home quarantined like everybody else, and so I thought, well, I can show how to tie a tie. That won't, it's not too big a commitment, and I can just put it out there and see what happens. And yep. And so here we are today. I didn't plan on it being what it is. I thought I was going to help 30 or 40 people and just try to, like I said, provide a safe place where you could just kind of come in and learn some things that maybe you hadn't been taught. So I was trying to fill in those voids that I know I didn't necessarily learn when I was in school. And you get out on your own, you go, wait a second, how do I do that? I really, I learned this algebraic equation, but I don't know how to cook a meal for myself. So a lot of those little things like that hopefully will be able to help people.
One thing I love about your YouTube channel is that although it is Dad, How Do I? And your heart was to help kids who maybe didn't have a father figure in their life, or a strong parental figure that was walking alongside them in life. It's actually things that even if you did have a good parent in your life, they may not have had the time to stop and teach you how to tie the tie. Dads will take the tie and tie it for the kids and then hand it to the kids and they'll slip it on. But in our busyness, sometimes we forget to teach our kids how to do those things for themselves.
Yep, I think that's true. And I want to encourage people, empower, and edify is what we've kind of landed on as far as what we want to get from our channel. We want to be able to, my daughter has helped me a lot. That's why I say we, really want to kind of empower anybody to be able to do things on their own. And it feels good, when you do something and you go, I didn't think I could do that. And then you do it and like, oh, what else can I do? And if you take baby steps, I joke about this, when you're a baby, you don't give up walking because you fell, you don't overthink it. You just keep walking, you keep trying and keep trying, and pretty soon you're walking. Where as adults, we get in our own head and we overthink things and say, oh, well, I just could never do that. I just wasn't good at it. Well, did you really give it a fair try to really try to allow your brain to process it and kind of be able to figure it out? And so that's what I try to do. I'm big on baby steps. I think it's so important to just try this little thing and then see how it goes. And then maybe try a little bit bigger thing and just kind of, because it's a little out of people's comfort zone, but it feels good.
And what's interesting is not only being willing to try something new, but to be willing to fail at it and keep trying. Because I think some people are like, oh, I'll try that, or I tried that in singular. And to
Yeah.
be honest, most things in life don't happen the first time you do it. You have to keep failing and realizing how not to do it so that the next attempt you're trying a different way.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think, and again, the sad thing is, I think as we get older, we're not as kind to ourselves as maybe when we're younger and we're not overthinking it. When you're older, you tend to, I can't do that, or oh, what will they think, or the critics, allow critics to decide what you're going to do next. Yeah.
Well, we're talking to parents who are homeschooling and maybe new homeschoolers, or maybe they have been doing it for a while, but that's one of those things that you don't know how it's going to work until you try, and when you try it probably isn't working out the way you thought, but you're learning how to fail graciously, and you're continuing to go on. And so when I watch your videos and I see you giving instruction, I think to myself, he makes it look so easy, right? In the world of Instagram and TikTok and all of these things, it looks so easy, and yet you give permission to people so that they know that, hey, it may take a couple tries.
Yeah, I hopefully am trying to help you understand. And I do try to include some stuff, because a lot of times, and I've said this before, a lot of times you on these home improvement type of things, they go, "Oh, we're going to put up a wall." Okay, the wall's up. Wait, you didn't show me all the different things you did to put that wall up, and so I do try to include my own struggles with things where, hey, that didn't quite go as planned. Here's a workaround, though, not to panic. You just, maybe you need to make this adjustment. And so I do try to include those, but I also don't want my videos to be 40 minutes long of me messing up. So I have to choose which ones I decide to include.
Well, I recently tried to sew something, and I don't know why I think I could have done it, but I attempted it, and my first take, I sewed myself to the point where I couldn't actually use it. There was no way to get into it, so
Oh,
I
no.
I was so tempted to just it was $10 worth of material. I'm just gonna throw it away. It's not worth it. And I thought, no, I gotta try again. There's gotta be another way. Now, it was incredibly ugly, and it was nothing that I'm going to start selling on Etsy, but I did push through it several attempts and got it done. And I think it's those kind of things that people need to know, that maybe we do get to the Pinterest worthy photo shoot shopped picture at the end, but it's the process of how you get there. And I think your own personal story kind of shows that process. So, when did you know you were going to write the book?
It kind of came out of the blue, honestly. I think a lot of people would say, "Oh, I should write a book." I think that's kind of a pretty common saying, because I think everybody does kind of have a story, and I think people are interesting. And if you dig in, everybody probably could write a book, really, but trying to get a publisher on board that's willing to back it or what have you. And when my channel went viral, I actually had several publishers reach out to me. And so it wasn't necessarily, I'm going to write a book someday. It was more, you should write a book, Rob, and we'll get behind it and support it. And so that's where that came from. I had never had any intentions of writing a book, and just like I didn't have intentions of this being 4 million subscribers. I thought I was just going to have a small group, and I'm an introvert myself, and so putting myself out there was a little bit scary. And when my channel went viral, honestly, I actually cried, because saw my face all over the internet, and I was didn't you can't rein it back in. I can't get this back. And so now and now I'm 2.5 years into it, so I've got my feet under me, and I've surrounded myself with good people, and so that really helps.
You do seem as though you are thoroughly enjoying it.
I am now. I am now. I still have my panic attacks. I've done a lot of remote interviews on famous, nationwide channels and that sort of thing. But I had an in-person interview at a local station here in Seattle. And on my way there, when I was driving there with my wife, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm really doing this? Because, in the comfort of your home, just like this, my dogs are here, and this is my house, and I'm talking to you. So you can kind of it's calm,
Mhm.
where I can overthink it, and so as I was driving, I'm like, well, we can turn around and just tell them I'm sick, or, as my mind was trying to come up with excuses, but it went well. So I'm glad I did it, because, I am trying to say yes to everything pretty much. I mean, within reason. Because if it's just something that scares me, I don't want that to stop me. And so trying to get out of my comfort zone and remain true to myself and all the above. It's a little bit tricky.
It really is. I think one thing that, as parents, as homeschool parents, we have to get really comfortable with the uncomfortable. I think in order to grow, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah, I did a Wisdom Wednesday talking about the comfort zone. I get it, because it's comfortable. That's why it's called the comfort zone. Yeah, I get it, but really, no growth really happens there. And some people, you might be at a stage in your life where that's okay. You just want to be comfortable and relaxed. But I think, especially as for a younger people, where you're getting out of your comfort zone, I think that's a healthy thing, because you don't know what, a lot of times we buy into the lie that, oh, you're this, and you get put into a box that this is who you are. Well, wait a second, I might be able, let me try this, and hey, I'm actually pretty good at that. Hey, let me try this. Pretty soon you're, and that's why on my channel I do pretty much anything. I'm doing cooking, and I'm reading children's stories, and but I'm also showing practical things with your car and with your home. And so it's fun, because I do want to show that it's, cooking shouldn't be a woman's job. It traditionally, it's kind of fallen that way, because the man would go to work and then the woman would stay home and cook. Well, but if you're both going to work, you both should be able to know how to cook, right, to fill in for each other. And then also, I want to empower women. I've had people say, I was a woman, I'm a woman, so my dad never taught me how to change a tire, because that's a man's job. Well, what if a man's not around? Or what if you get stranded on the side of the road? You're going to hope a nice man comes along and changes your tire for you? Or, I think that's a pretty shallow way of thinking. And I didn't do that with my own kids. So I have a daughter and a son that are grown, and I wanted to teach my daughter everything, and my son everything too, so that they could do, whatever they wanted to try.
Now, speaking of family, I know you've mentioned your daughter and how she has helped with the creative inspiration to the things that you have done. This definitely does appear as though it's a family affair. Do your children mind sharing their dad with the internet?
Well, my daughter was a big part of it, like you said. So she knew full well what we were getting into, I think, and if it exploded. And she checks on me to say, Dad, are you still okay with with what's happened with this? And I am. And so as long as she's okay. And then my son, I checked with my son early on, and I said, Kyle, are you okay with what has happened here? And he said, Dad, if I was 9 years old and you were doing this, he said, I might have a problem with it, but he's 27, and he said, I'm good. You did a good job. So if it's something you enjoy, then go for it. So, and then my wife too, we've had to adjust everything with my wife. And I have tried to remain, regular and normal. We still have the same house, still driving our same used cars. We still, I haven't really done anything other than just try to get my head around this more.
And then you have a podcast with your nephew, correct?
I do, yeah. Yep, that's something we started last May.
Your nephew's laugh is contagious, I have to tell you.
He laughs at his own jokes. So he can make things fun.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah.
definitely it's a fun podcast to listen to. Now, when you were going to write your book, I know you had your immediate family's permission. Was there any hesitation on your part about telling your story that included people outside your immediate four walls at the time?
Yeah, it's a little tricky. But I tried to, put everything in the proper light. There's things obviously I didn't share that I could have shared, and I thought that's not necessary for the message that I'm trying to get across. I did have to get into a little bit of the stuff with my dad, and again, I forgave my dad. And that's the cool part about the end of the story. You know, you got to kind of hang with it. And I'm not trying to throw my dad under the bus, but this was a decision that he made. He's passed since, you know, and I'm not living in the past. But I compare it to It's a Wonderful Life. You know, I love It's a Wonderful Life, and one of the best movies ever. And you have to sit through the bad parts in order for the end to be so amazing, right? Where Uncle Billy gives the Potter takes the money, and oh no, why does he keep that money? You know, it's always painful to watch that, but you got to watch the bad part in order for the end to be so glorious. And so I think I would be doing people a disservice if I left out the fact that this happened to me. This was my life, and but you don't have to live there. You can move on from it. And so, yeah, all that to say, I think it's been a little bit of a struggle with some people, and I'm not going to mention any names, to maybe feel like I'm airing dirty laundry when I did my best not to. Tried to paint people in the best light I possibly could. And the reality is I'm 59. And so that was, you do the math. You're the homeschool mom. So
You're
that was a
giving me
long time
way
ago.
too much credit, Rob.
Well, I'm 58 actually. So see, I can't even remember how old I am, but it's been a long time, right? I mean, it's not like this is something that happened 3 years ago and people are still dealing with it. By this time, it's a long time ago.
And so your book, How Do I, is really about how you got to where you are now. Is that a good summary then?
I would say so. It's I share quality traits from my siblings. That's what I was trying to do, talk about each sibling, and something that and actually on my 50th birthday, that's something I did. On my 50th birthday, I went around and said, Mary, I really appreciate how you were. It was important for family, to keep family together, because that wasn't important to me, honestly. I was just fighting to survive. I appreciated family, but I was more in survival mode of, and Mary kept trying to keep family together. We got a lot of roots in Kansas and that. And then you work down, through Tim and Rick. I lived with Rick and his work ethic. He taught me what a good work ethic is. And then showing up on time and doing a good job when you're there. I think that's important. Anyway, and then on down through, I think it's got a lot of value, because I think there's some quality character traits that we all could learn and be reminded of.
As you're looking at this current generation, these kids and young adults, and like myself, middle-aged adults who are gaining wisdom from your experience, how do you reconcile this current generation who kind of wants everything in neat and tidy in 30 to 60 seconds, and it should be done perfectly the first time, or I'm not going to do it? I mean, there's so many things that we can benefit from in our society because of technological advances. But at the same time, I think we've lost a lot of things as well. You talk about cooking. I mean, I have 17-year-old twins, and every time I turn around, someone's at a Chick-fil-A or a Chipotle, and I'm like, I just spent $600 on groceries. Why are we eating out? Right. But it's their money. And so trying to be a responsible parent and let them decide. But does that encourage you, like that, like there's a space for you to come in and help mend that? Are you ever discouraged when you look around and you're like, these kids have no clue?
Well, in fairness, Chick-fil-A and Chipotle are amazing. So I got to put that in. So I understand the cravings there. So I got to, just to be completely transparent. Yeah, a little bit. And honestly, I've been on TikTok just recently, but I've been so busy that I've hardly posted recently. But I debated getting on TikTok, and I've shared this on my podcast too. I debated it because it concerns me. The 30-second, oh, swipe. Oh, this bores me. I'm bored. Well, a lot of quality time, comes from quantity time and just hanging out. And so that's what the podcast kind of is where we're just hanging out. A lot of times, we're not necessarily solving the world's problems, but we're just kind of hanging out and talking about what we got going on that week. And so it does concern me. I think I want, I think there's some value in it for sure. There's certain things, TikTok hacks where, oh, that's pretty cool. I didn't even know that. That's pretty cool. And I can put that into use. But then I think there's a lot of other things where people want to be YouTube famous or TikTok famous, and they're willing to do stuff that I don't think is wholesome, and so that concerns me. I think people wanting a quick fame type of thing, and I've had people reach out to me, how did you do it? I want to be, well, I didn't, this wasn't planned, and so I'm doing the best I can and trying to deal with the ramifications of being YouTube famous. So anyway, yeah, I think you're right. I think there is a concern about this, about the next. I mean, you always hear it. Oh, back in my day, it was like this, and well, I think we have information overload coming in so fast now. I do get concerned. I also, since my channel is kind of aimed at people without fathers too, I have a concern with the amount of information and the amount of stuff that's on people's phones, really easy to access stuff, and people that don't have the kids that don't have somebody watching out for them. That's a concern. I think it's a valid concern that I want to protect these kids' minds. They're seeing stuff at way too early of an age that they can't process it.
I have to interject. I'm pretty sure Travis would definitely disagree and say that you guys are, at least he's probably solving some of the world's problems on your podcast.
He thinks he is.
Yeah, so. He thinks he is for sure. I do think that part of homeschooling is that parents get to decide what influences their children in a different way, right? Like through curriculum, they get the choices or how they choose to educate and what venues they choose to use. And so, and yet we still have to be on guard for what our children have access to and who our children are listening to via TikTok, YouTube. Can't tell you how many times my youngest, I don't know if this, you have 2, so I don't know if your youngest kind of follows that typical baby, but we have 3. So the youngest always is like, she sneaks away. I'm like, where is she? So Courtney, yes. What are you doing? Watching a YouTube video. What are you watching? Like, it's this, it's comical. It has to happen routinely throughout the day because she slips away. But then I'm like noticing, like, what is she doing? Where is she at? And thankfully she just watches nail videos right now, but it's that constant monitoring. It's that we can't let our guard down just because we're homeschooling, just because we have our children maybe a little bit more insulated and around us more. We can be just as ignorant to what's going on with our kids too.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. And see, but you're also somebody that's actually looking out for them too. You're at least a presence that's looking out for them. My big concern is, what about the people that don't have a presence like yourself that is doing the best they can to guard their minds, while they're young?
And Rob, that's why you are the internet's dad. I'm sorry, but that's why right there. Like, you just nailed it.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm doing the best I can, with the limited knowledge that I have. But I am trying to hopefully, I do want to encourage dads too. That's another thing that I'm hoping comes out of my channel, that being a dad is such a blessing. It's so, and a mom, I'm sure I've never been a mom. So, but being a dad it's such an honor, and it's such a short window of time that, that we had our kids here, and my kids are my best friends now. You slowly change, and now they're, we talk every day because we're really close. But yeah, anything I can do to help encourage dads to hang in there, because it breaks my heart, some of the stories that I hear all the time. And so I'm hoping with my platform, as it continues to grow, to get opportunities to be able to help with that.
Well, since we're on the subjects of dad, do you have a dad joke for us?
Uh-oh, put me on the spot here. Well, I got some go-to ones. So
Perfect.
So an antenna and a satellite got married. The wedding wasn't much, but the reception was incredible. You probably heard that.
I hadn't. I wasn't expecting to laugh, but it's actually pretty good.
Oh, come on now. My dad jokes, I try to boil it down to where we got some Yeah,
I mean,
I
isn't
sift through the ones. So
but isn't the whole point the dad joke is like to be like dun dun dun, like it's always
yeah,
like
it
rah,
is supposed to
rah.
be. Yeah. Well, I got another one for you. So my son said he didn't understand cloning. I told him that makes two of us.
Oh my gosh, too much,
Those
too
are two of my
much.
better.
Yeah. I like it. I like it. Well, Rob, I appreciate your time. But before you go, I always ask our guests, what is a homeschool hack or a life hack that you can share with our listeners that is maybe, not earth shattering, but can help somebody in their day?
Uh-oh. I think I saw that you had asked me to be prepared for that. What do I don't know, that's a homeschool hack. This is just a hack that I just heard the other day from my brother. Actually told me when you have if you're painting, does this count? If you're
Yes.
painting a room. So if you're painting a room and you got your paint can, uh once you pop the lid off, that you actually take a nail and pound it into the rim going around. You pound a few nail holes so that when you wipe off your brush, the paint drips back down inside the paint can. Brilliant, huh?
It is brilliant. Otherwise, it pools around. And when you put the top back on, it spills over the sides and you got a huge mess.
There you go. And it
Not that
does
I've
tend to
ever
spill
done
over.
that.
I know, I never have either. But when he brought it up, I said, I didn't. He said, and he was bringing it up like everybody should know. And I said, I didn't know that, Rick. I think that's a great, it's a great idea. I need to actually share it on TikTok.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you for sharing it with us. Um, I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing as a homeschool parent. I appreciate that I know that there's a safe place on YouTube that, we can go find some how-tos in and enjoy a good dad joke out there.
Well, thanks. Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to do the best I can. And yeah, I try to keep it a safe place where you're not going to have swearing and you're not going to have, stuff that you would have be offensive. When you upload a video, YouTube always asks all these questions to see, and I always just check, nope, no problem. I'm not talking about controversial stuff. I'm trying to just help encourage and empower and edify. Hopefully we can walk alongside people that need a little bit of help.
Well, I have enjoyed our chat together. I know our listeners are going to get a good laugh from those dad jokes. And if they have not checked out your YouTube channel, then they can go to where?
Yeah, just go to YouTube and Dad, How Do I? I also have Instagram and Facebook. And if you go to those, there's a link tree. I have a link tree. And if you click on that, the link in the bio on my Instagram, it'll take you to all the different, so TikTok and yeah, Instagram and Facebook and YouTube.
Great. Well, I want to thank you for what you are doing to contribute to society, to help people just be able to do the common things that they don't know how to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. That's kind of what I feel like I'm doing. So
Well,
I'm
you're
glad to be
doing a
able.
great job. Thank you so much, Rob, for taking the time. Want to thank you guys for listening. And until next time, bye bye.